Well, welcome, Life West community. This is Dr. Ron Oberstein with the Life West Leadership Line. I'm so excited to have you with us today, but I'm really more excited to have our guest with us today. And who we have on the screen is Dr. Dee Humber. And Dr. Humber and I have known each other for the past 43 years, I believe, something like that. And he's just a stalwart in chiropractic who has done so much, and we'll be able to learn so much from him today. So welcome to the Leadership Line, Dr. Dee Humber.
Thank you, Dr. Ron. Pleasure to be on, my friend.
Great to have you. Great to have you. And just for anyone that, for all of our listeners, Dr. Humber is graduated in 1956 from Palmer. He graduated with Dr. Sid Williams and Dr. Nell Williams. They're all in the same class. Was Reggie in your year? Reggie Gold? Was he in?
He was in that year, but not in our class.
Okay, but he was a 56 grade. A lot of powerful people came out in 1956, right?
Yeah, in those mid-50s, a lot of them.
A lot of them, pretty incredible. And he's been a chiropractic patient for over 74 years. And we're going to give his age away anyways when you do the math, but he started as a patient at the age of 13. And so you can do the math. He's 87 years young and just has done so much in chiropractic. It's just incredible. So Dee, welcome once again, but let's jump into it because, I know you've done a tremendous amount. And, before you were in practice, and I failed to say, talk about your family in chiropractic, because I know you've got family members. So share with our audience about that.
Yeah. Well, Ron, my oldest brother, Dr. T.O. Humber, was in the military. He was a pilot, and he was in Lubbock, Texas, and he taught, he didn't go overseas, but he taught other young men how to fly. And while he was there in Lubbock, Texas, his wife was pregnant with the first child, and she wanted him to take her to a chiropractor because she started having some back issues. Well, our family back in those days was very medically oriented. So he said, listen, we got free care here on the base, medical care. You can't beat it. I'm not taking you. Well, finally, she convinced him, you got to take me. So he went to Dr. Brookie Stevens in Lubbock, and he wouldn't go in. He said, I'm not going, I'll take you, but I'm not going. Long story short, he kept seeing people crawl in and leap out, so to speak. He got so curious about it, he went in, and she introduced Dr. Brookie to Dr. T.O. And Dr. Stevens said, young man, what are you going to do when you get out of the service? He said, I'm going to sell insurance. I'm a pretty good salesman, maybe real estate. He said, no, you're not. He said, I'm not. He said, no, you're going to be a chiropractor. That's how he approached Lieutenant Humber at that time. And so anyway, he came back home after they got out of service, told my parents that he's going to Davenport to Palmer, and entered Palmer. And the neat thing about it, I don't want to bore people with this issue, but Dr. J.K. Humber, which was the second chiropractor in our family, went up to Davenport just to visit T.O. while he was at Palmer because he was taking a job with my older brother who's in electrical business. But he said, I want to go visit Orville or T.O. in Virginia before I get started with you. He goes up, it's at Lyceum time, and he hears Dr. B.J. under the tent. He comes home, and when he gets out of the cab, back then you took cabs to the train station back to home. Anyway, my mom was on the front porch, and she hollered, and she said, Kenneth, you left your suitcase in the cab. He said, no, Mom, I'm going back to Iowa. I'm going to Chiropractic College. Oh, wow. So that was the first two. And then I followed them. And then another older brother of mine, Dr. Harold, followed myself. And so we ended up 4 of the Humber boys out of the 5 became chiropractors.
That's incredible. That is so cool. And to think about this, because I know that Dr. T.O. gave Dr. Sid Williams, right? His first adjustment? His
first Atlas adjustment. Yep.
And boom, he knew right then that he was going to be a chiropractor, right?
Yeah. He had such outstanding, he lost a lot of his athletic capabilities. He was playing for football with Bobby Dodd at Georgia Tech back those days, early 50s. And he got an Atlas adjustment, and he said, man, it was like a light switch turned on. Next thing you know, his athletic prowess came back. Yeah. And it was like a miracle to him. And he told Nell, he says, Nell, and they were just fiancé then. It says, we're going to go to chiropractic college when we get out, after we marry. And they actually drove to Davenport on their honeymoon day after they got married. So
that is great. That is great. And so when you look at that and you see all these people who went, and then obviously, yourself, Dr. Williams, Dr. Nell, everybody came back to Georgia, right? And you guys, everyone was practicing. And then all of a sudden, Dr. Williams, had this idea in the early 70s to start a college, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And then in your involvement, because you were executive vice president and, you grew along with with the Williams, largest chiropractic college in the world. Talk about that experience and what it was like to even start a school,
Well, Dr. Ron, I've said through the years, and I don't mind saying it on this program of yours, I think D.D. Humber got a lot more credit than he really deserves. I really mean that sincerely, because unless you're around Dr. Sid and be with someone as close as I was to him and his vision and his keenness about every aspect of developing an institution and his vision. It was primarily Dr. Sid's vision. All we did is really follow his vision. And I did everything I could to support that vision. And it was my extreme pleasure to I actually was running one of his clinics, Triple H clinics. He had 7 of them in the ghettos, so to speak, of Atlanta back then, primarily caring for African American citizens. And but I ran one of those, and but in '74, when we started the college, we had Life Foundation and DE meeting started in '64, and then Life Foundation in '66, and then through Life Foundation and DE, Dr. Sid decided it's time to start a school. So in '74, he announced it at a DE meeting in Atlanta. We're going to start the college here in Marietta, found a location on Barclay Circle, and called me up a Sunday afternoon and said, DD, I think Nell and I found the building we need. He said, get in your car and come over and let's look at it. So I went over, and I've shared this before, but I'll share it with the audience. We walked around the building, Ron, and if you remember there on Barclay Circle, that main building, the windows in it were kind of narrow, tall, narrow windows. All we could do is peek in. We couldn't see much. But we had 2 parking lots out front, which were pretty good size, and then another large parking lot in the rear. Well, we were up on the back side after we looked around the building, and way up on the back side, Doc said, DD, what do you think? I said, well, it's a fine facility, Doc. And I'll tell you one thing. If we get this building and able to start the school here, we'll never have a parking problem. Showed you what vision I had, Ron.
There you go. And having a parking problem is a really good thing. That means that you got a lot of people coming there,
We had years and years of parking problems at Life.
Exactly. But what was so cool was because you did start in that one building, there was Social Security office in that building, right? You know, and then you expanded over to the next building, right? That was like a warehouse. And then to the next one and the next one.
That's right.
It was just phenomenal how the growth just went, and it just all opened up. And then the land that got purchased across the street, and all the things that happened to now the 100 and I don't know how many acres are over there.
145 acres.
145 acres in the historical village, and all the things that are there. It really is, and I'm a proud graduate, but it really is a testament, when someone steps foot on that campus.
Yes, it is. It really is, Ron. And it was our pleasure to be there actually, I was the first chairman of the board when I was still practicing, but I went out full time in '78 and was there for 24 years as vice president, senior vice president.
But Dee Dee, one of the things that, and we do this here at Life West, and truthfully, whatever I brought, what I'm bringing here, it's also coming from, yourself and Dr. Williams, and what was happening, because that's where I was trained with, and being able to see the historical context of chiropractic, the thing about when with Dr. Williams, it was always about the history, about where we came from, the book he wrote, looking back to see ahead, that it was always about honoring the past, but always looking forward.
Yeah.
And it was just the vision was just incredible of how you guys built that college. Were there any tribulations or any trials that you felt you went through in the early days of the college?
Well, Ron, the beginning, see, we had an alumni already because we had all the people attending DE. Yeah. And they're the ones that primarily were our alumni, really were. That's where all the strength came from people attending DE in those days. Dr. Sid put out the memo or the word that we've got to have a library, so you got to get books. And so they started bringing in books by the carloads, every kind. Dr. Sid used to refer to it. He said they even had Tarzan books in there. It was kind of unique. I don't want to go into too much of just the history of that because that's a whole, I could talk for a week or two on that. But a lady showed up, Nancy Hill, who was a graduate of Duke University and a master's in library science. And so she came up, she heard about life starting, and she lived there in the Atlanta area. She heard about the life beginning, and so she said, I'm going to go out. So she interviewed with Dr. Williams, and he said, well, Nancy, I got your background, and I know who you are and your background, but I'm afraid at this time of stage, I'm not going to be able to afford you. She says, oh, yes, you can too. And he says, I can? And she said, yeah, I'm working for you for nothing. Wow. All I want is to help you get this institution started. And so for the first 2 or 3 or 4 years, she worked for absolutely nothing, had a degree in library science from Duke.
Yeah. When I graduated in 81. Right. Nancy was still there.
Oh yeah. She was there for years. Yeah. But it was the beginning. I mean, you're asking about, was it difficult? That building we were in was former building of Lockheed Aircraft, and we had a first month we got the bill. The electric bill was $5,000. Dr. Sid liked to faint it. And then he turns to Dr. Nell and he says, Dr. Nell, yeah, you take care of this. And she and the finance man, they were the ones that had to sweat it out. He said, I can't worry about it now. If I worry about that, I can't worry about how to build this institution. So, Dr. Nell got a lot of that through the years too, I'll tell you.
I'm sure she was cool as a cucumber, right?
Yeah, but she was his white-haired angel, but she paid the price, I tell you.
I love it.
Those early days, they were first class was 22 students, January of 75, and then it went downhill for about 2-3 quarters. Instead of 22, it was like 15, and then it started picking up.
Yeah.
But so it took probably, I'd say the first year and a half was really a struggle.
Yeah. Yep. And it started, so the first class came in 74.
January 75.
January 75. Yep. January 75. And I stepped on campus in 78. So 3 years later, and it was already up to 700.
Oh yeah.
And when I left in 81, we were at 900, over 900. I mean, the growth was just phenomenal.
Yeah. We peaked in the late 98, 97, 98 at 3,300 in the DC program, 1,000 in the undergrad program.
It's just incredible. When you look at that and you see how many people are going to be serving, right? And we are so understocked in chiropractors throughout this country, throughout the world. I mean, a population of 6 billion people, and you got less than 85,000 chiropractors worldwide. We couldn't take care of everybody.
Right, absolutely. And I don't know whether it's the right moment to share this or not, but I will share this since you've touched on it, Dr. Ron. Huh? Where we are in chiropractic today, and I know we were going to talk about that a little later, but I will share this. If you look at us now in the number of chiropractors, for years it was like 25,000, then it grew to 40,000, then up to 60,000, then up to 70,000. But then we sort of plateaued out. In recent years, it's reached a plateau. I would think now, after my time in chiropractic, we'd have 150, 200,000. Yeah. So I would want anybody looking at this video that we are presenting today, and you're a practicing chiropractor, you need to be like Dr. Brookie Stevens. When somebody shows up, you need to tell them what they need to do with the rest of their life. Don't ask them. You might ask, and then when they respond, then you say, no, you got to do this. You need to go to be a chiropractor, because recruiting people to the institutions today is so very important. If we're going to grow, if we're going to reach the masses, it has to be done by individual practicing chiropractors worldwide, for that matter. And I know we've got institutions in other areas of the world, not just in the U.S. and Canada, but the growth of our institutions is pivotal.
Yeah, it is. And what people have to understand, too, is that there's no oversaturation, you know, and they have to realize if there's 3 chiropractors on their corner, right, if there's 4 chiropractors, they're one of them, and the 3 other people set up shop on the other corners, they're just going to do better.
Absolutely.
You know, that's, you know, wherever there's a McDonald's, there's a Burger King, wherever there's a Hilton, there's a Marriott, there's a this, you know, that awareness that's going to go out there is just going to be so much better.
Absolutely, Ron.
And you said something, you know, at our birthday celebration, 125th, you know, you said something about that, you know, people to go out and practice, right? To deliver the goods, you know,
right.
to know that what the power of chiropractic, right, and what we can do, that we can do. There's so much that we can do, but we're not educating our public.
Oh, no question about that.
You brought that up, you know.
That's the demise of our profession too. Not only our growth, and I think that ties hand in hand with the fact that you know. I just saw it yesterday. I think it was someone posted, or it might have been Rod Sennett posted something on, and he was talking about D.D. Palmer, what D.D. Palmer, what he discovered or what he did in 1895, who discovered chiropractic. He didn't give them, even though we know nutrition is important, but he didn't just hand Harvey an organic carrot, right. Because he would still be deaf, or it would have been deaf in those days, and we'd be all accountants. I thought that was I saw that just yesterday.
Yeah, I saw it too.
You got to deliver the message, what we are, what we're about, and it's not all about a medical model and following the medical model. And if there's anything, my concern, and I don't know whether I've got another year, 2 years, 5 years left on this earth, but my biggest concern is the fact that chiropractic public needs to know more of what chiropractic really is, like we do, Ron, like you and I know.
Yep.
That's so very important. They need to understand where healing comes from internally.
Yes.
Not externally, internally. It's above, down, inside out. It's the same old story. And it's not difficult. It's really quite simple.
Yeah, and it's also very scientific.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's not a belief. It's not a theory. It's very scientific. We heal from the inside out. I do this. I'm sloughing off dead cells. My dead cells start from the inside and they work their way out. My heart does the same thing. I mean, there's so much to it. And, you know, it was really interesting. I'm going to go back to the 125th birthday because you heard this because you were at the party. There was Gene Koffel, right, who, you know, practiced for, you know, graduated in 1945. You know, her father graduated in 1911.
Right.
1,000 people were in his class.
Yeah.
You heard her say that, right? And so back then they were producing chiropractors by the thousands, right?
Absolutely.
One college, you know, and here we are, and we should be up there also. And I think it's our obligation as a chiropractor to pass that on, you know?
Because it's the public. The losers in this thing is not the chiropractor. A chiropractor today, if they make any effort at all, they can make a good income, have a good life. That's not the message. The message is those people that's suffering because of lack of what we know and what we're able to do for them when they come into our offices.
Yeah. I had a call last night, Dee Dee, with a very dear friend of mine, and she's a chiropractor. Her husband's a chiropractor, and he's been having some issues lately. And it turns out he's got a cancer in there's a concealed tumor in his spine, right? In the thoracic spinal area, and it's affecting the nerve root going out and and all this stuff. So he's got to see a surgeon, and hopefully they can take it out. It'll be good, you know, that kind of thing. But what we were talking about last night, she called me to say, how do I handle this system? Because She went to a medical doctor, a very fine medical doctor, took a look, referred them to an oncologist. The oncologist referred them over to get some lab work, and then got the lab work and got a CT scan, got all the stuff, and then it came back. And now they're supposed to go over to this hospital that deals with this certain kind of cancer that he has. And he can't even get up right now. He can't even walk right now from the pain that's going on. And they told him, we can get you in sometime in mid-November.
Whoa.
And they haven't even got they didn't even have the report yet. So she basically was calling me saying, what do I do? She was ready to pull her hair out. But what she did say was this. That's why I brought it up. What she did say was, this is where we excel as chiropractors, as doctors, that you call me. You talk to me. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to work you through this. That kind of, nothing against medicine. They do great work, right? It's just the system that's set up. But when they're under chiropractic care, and that's why our patients are so loyal, is because they have someone they can talk to. They know someone who cares about them, that will give, do, love, and serve out of their abundance for them. And it's huge. And it's huge. And what people give, if chiropractors can own that, we'd all be just packed,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's crazy. And it's so beautiful. And I'm so excited for what you're talking about. Let's switch gears for a second. I want to move into, you were involved in the college. We know that, and been in the profession. But now, or while you're in the college, you're also doing a lot of stuff in the political world. So you've watched us kind of grow, right? And what we've done. And I know you were president of the ICA, and it was booming at that time, and all kinds of great things were happening. What did you see in those days, and where the pressure points were and things that were happening?
Well, Ron, in the early 70s, it was all about, I was president of the Georgia Chiropractic Association at the time. And back in those days, our biggest thing was trying to get insurance equality laws passed. When we graduated in the mid-50s, the problem was we didn't have licensure. There's 5 states with no licensure. Then after we got them all licensed, the next thing is us trying to get in. Well, the big deal was getting in Medicare. We were able to be successful in that effort. And then the insurance equality laws. And then after we got insurance equality laws, everything came, well, how you fill out the forms. And then the seminars everywhere were just how to fill out the forms to make sure you get paid. Right. We went through, so it's a whole litany of step by step. And all those issues, whether if you're in an association, whether it be a state association, like at that time it was the GCA that I was president of, or the International Chiropractic Association later on in the early 2000s, all of the time, most of it evolved around, from a national perspective at least, evolved around legislation and what are we going to do to advance chiropractic. And back in those days when I was president of ICA, a lot of it was what are we going to do to advance and get chiropractic involved in the military. And that was a big issue. And it took a lot of years. I was past president before that happened. I mean, it took a number of years before we got recognition and started having chiropractors actually recognized and placed in hospitals in various areas of the country. So most of the time, running the organization itself and the internal politics is always going to be in place. Yeah. But from time to time, there will be issues that will come up in the profession where you have to deal with it, respecting the entire profession. And speaking from my perspective in chiropractic, being a subluxation-centered chiropractor, always being involved and around people who had that same mindset, it looks as though now insurance might have been one of our worst things. I thought about all the work we made and effort we put in to try to get insurance equality, and it turned right around and kicked us in the rear, because what had happened, it turned out that the insurance companies then began to pay for everything else that wasn't chiropractic. And so chiropractors then wanting to, a lot of them having difficulty succeeding for whatever other reason, maybe not understanding fully the impact of chiropractic as we know it, but they were lost. And so they jumped on that bandwagon. And next thing you know, there's a proliferation of what we termed back in those days modalities within the profession. And then that spread to the point that it just grew and grew and grew, and it was all out of, and even today, I noticed some of the associations is still all about what we can do to help the chiropractor have greater income. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with income. You and I know that, Ron. We all enjoy income. But if we make that our goal, that is serious business, because the goal has got to be service. As you mentioned, serving, loving, and giving a while ago, that's got to be our goal. If that became our goal of every chiropractor in the country, and they began to serve everyone they could in any way they can as a chiropractor, they don't have to practice like me, but they got to serve the people and explain to people about the internal workings of the nervous system and how important it is that you live a life clear of nerve interference.
Yeah. And, I think our listeners need to know this, that when you were going through this political stuff to get insurance and to get these different things, it wasn't only about remuneration. It was about equality.
Oh, yeah.
Because you came out in 56 and, chiropractors were like, medical doctors are saying they're going to kill you. I won't take care of you, your family, if you see a chiropractor, all these different things. And so I want our viewers to know that part of that, it wasn't strictly, in fact, probably less about remuneration when we got into insurance. It was more about, look, insurance here. Because we couldn't change their minds, right? We couldn't. You can't change someone's mind if they hate you, Right. But you can change the culture around that if you're being accepted by the government and by other people, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Insurance equality. That's what they were called. Insurance equality laws.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Medicare, huge. I mean, like to this day, we're recognized by the federal government.
Absolutely.
And listen, back in the 80s, when I graduated in 81, people would say these kind of things to me also. Well, you're not a real doc. Of course we are,
Right.
And federal government pays for us and yada, 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 and that kind of thing. So I just want our listeners to know that, because it wasn't about, yes, to get remunerated so we can get remunerated. But when you started practice, how much were you charging an adjustment?
Right. Back in those days, there was a fellow from Indiana that started the program called Patient Chiropractic.
GPC.
And so Sid and Nell started off on that system, and so I did as well. I spent 2 years in the service after Palmer, but when I got out in 58 and started my practice, I was GPC chiropractor, and we just had a box on the wall, patient pay according to means or ability. Yeah. That's how we started out. Yeah. But then it went on from there till, I don't even remember, maybe $2 a visit when we first started.
Right.
And we had 2 or 3 insurance companies in Georgia that paid for chiropractic care, and they would pay $3 a visit and $10 or $15 for X-rays. And well, man, we got one of those patients that came to work for one of those firms. We were all excited. But the bottom line is, and I went to Sid and Ellen and myself went to Parker back in the late 50s, and I can vividly recall. I didn't go in 60, 61. Sid came back. He and Nell, they'd been out there, and he said, Dee, you're not going to believe it. There's these 2 chiropractors from the Midwest. They reported they took in $25,000 last year. Not last month, Ron. Last year. And that was huge. Yeah. Because back then, when we started out, average successful chiropractor was somewhere in the neighborhood of $15,000 a year. Yeah. Up to 20. But unheard of $25,000 a year. Right.
That was like that's like a $2 million practice right now, kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's so cool. And just for our listeners, what Dr. Humber started out with was the GPC, right? There were two different ways they used to use that as an acronym. And one was God, patient, chiropractor. Serve God first, the patient second, the chiropractor gets served last, or God pays the chiropractor.
God pays the chiropractor.
One or the other. So, and I will tell a funny story. And you probably know this because I don't know where I heard it, who I heard it from. But with the GPC, people would come in, they drop some change in there, right? And then you hear it clunk. So what people started doing was putting cotton on the bottom, so people didn't know what they were putting in, right?
You heard that from me. I cotton lined my boxes because that change had the wrong put the wrong perception in the mind of the paying patient.
There you go. I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, I am so thankful, Dee. We got to come to an end, and I'm so thankful for everything you've done in chiropractic. I mean, and what you're still doing. You're still mentoring chiropractors. 87 years old. You're still, going to DE 4 times a year and mentoring chiropractors and lecturing and doing the things that you're doing. And it's just amazing because, obviously that old saying about, are you in chiropractic or is chiropractic in you, right?
Absolutely.
And I could say that, chiropractic is deep within your DNA and of course, your family's DNA. So I want to thank you. Everything you've done for chiropractic, how you've devoted your life, to this principle, right? From practice to building the largest school with the Williams to all the things political and all the other things. I truly hope one day that, that I can look back and say that I gave as much as you did and was able to share as much because it's incredible.
And you're doing a great job at that Life West. We appreciate you so much.
Well, I appreciate you.
Wonderful institution.
Yes, thank you. And I do want to ask if you have any final words, anything you'd like to just share with our viewers.
Well, Ron, it's just, like I say, it's been my privilege to be on this leadership line with you. And I appreciate, again, what y'all are doing at Life West and your ability, a willingness to take the helm out there at Life West. The time when the Life West needed help, and you stepped in, having been a member of the Regents for a number of years. We served together, as you know. But it's just that our profession is so great. It's so greatly needed. And I keep singing the same song over and over again, Ron. If we just will do what Dr. Sid said, live the lasting purpose, love, serve, and give out of your own abundance, and be willing to step forth and project chiropractic to as many and reach as many people as you can, get them under chiropractic care. And again, I'm going to say this, to reach out to those people and get them involved in chiropractic who are searching for a way to live their life in the future.
Yeah. Well, it's beautiful words and nothing could be truer. So there's not much I can say after that. And it's really there. So thank you, Dee. Thank you for your time and thank you for your commitment. And I know you are a true friend of Life West, and obviously you were part of the development of this whole college. And so thank you. And to our listeners, I want to listen to this again because there are pearls that were dropped that you just have to kind of take in again. I was writing some notes actually, and so there's just so much that we can learn from chiropractors like Dr. Dee Humber, and even to just aspire to walk the talk, as he does, and his generation of chiropractors, and it's just unbelievable. So, anyways, I appreciate you listening in today. I appreciate you being part of our leadership line, part of our Life West community, and I will be coming back at you in for the next episode of the Life West leadership line. Until then, live your life from above down, inside out. Let people know that their ability to heal is far greater than they were ever led to believe, that healing comes from the inside out. It's an inside job, and just keep giving, doing, loving, and serving to the best of your ability and your abundance, and hug those that you love. Okay, until the next time, we'll see you later. Thanks so much. Thank you, Dee.